Today is June 3rd, and I'm Derek O'Shea, and this is the Derek O'Shea Show. Journalist Andy Ngo, some call him the worst nightmare for Antifa, who normally tracks far-left extremists, was attacked by extremists just the other day. Extremists? Antifa? Black Lives Matter? Whatever name they want to use these days. It's just an idea, right, Joe Biden? He was attacked in Portland just the other day, and he made a post just recently saying, no journalist in America should ever face violence for doing his or her job, Ngo said, and he continued, yet on Friday, May 28th, Antifa tried to kill me again while I was reporting on the ongoing protests and riots in Portland, Oregon. For a new chapter of my book, Unmasked Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy America. He said, I was chased, attacked, and beaten by a masked mob, baying for my blood, he said. I had not been able to shelter, wounded and bleeding inside my hotel. While they beat the doors and windows like animals, there is no doubt in my mind I would not have been here today. Their words, like their actions, speak for themselves. So we have a gay Asian journalist being beaten by Antifa, and how many top stories was this on any of the mainstream news outlets, including Fox News? 0. We have Stop Asian Hate being pushed constantly, as majority of the videos you're watching anyways are just like what seems like homeless or deranged people just beating people out out of nowhere. It doesn't seem like an organized effort. But then we have this, which is clearly organized, as there's tweets all over Twitter about how he needs to die, and this time they need to finish it off, and like praising what happened, and tweets announcing where he is so people could go and potentially kill him if their people are losing their minds. Like, these people actually think they're fighting Nazis. This like deranged lunatic. I know they're like, the left is so obsessed with QAnon and just the craziness on the right. They're so obsessed with that because that's like sex to them. It sells. It feels good. But when you talk about the deranged lunacy on the left, they're silent about it. It makes sense because they have an agenda to push, right? They want to make sure that the French conservatives, that's such a small faction, they're the real issue, not the people that are destroying cities, that destroyed cities all summer long and are continuing to destroy Portland. They're not concerned about that. And as they just planned and beat up a gay Asian journalist, you would think the journalist would have another journalist back, but no, because journalism is dead. They don't care. They don't want to write actual factual news stories and breaking news of what's going on. They want to be activists now. All the news agencies these days, I guess including myself, it's just activism. It's just like, what's the message? What's going on? You can't just write a news source. And I think that's why you see people like myself and independent people that are just like so tired of the BS that's just shoved down your throats. And some of my liberal friends are like, why you guys just throw away every source I give you, because they're not real sources. They just cite actual sources. So they'll use another journalist's work, and then they'll fact check that journalist's work in a sense where they fact check it in their head and their own bias, and they put it out on the website as fact, and then you see at the bottom where the actual source is from, and then you get to go read the actual source, and it has nothing to do with what's actually printed. I'm tired of reading this, and I'm tired of saying this. And Andy, dude, if I knew I was gonna get if I had I guess I don't have as big of balls as Andy, because if I knew a group of guys or a group of sadistic psychopaths were wanting to destroy me and kill me and beat me up at every chance they got, I would just walk in there and infiltrate them. I might watch from afar, maybe send my drone in to zoom in and stuff like that. But dude, I just, that's crazy to me. But again, what do you expect from these people? Joe Biden did say the white supremacists is a bigger threat than ISIS, and I agree with him, because it's Antifa. Those are my white supremacists, because they're the real white supremacists. They like separation. They like discriminating. They obviously like beating gay Asians, so they're into that. So, oh, you mean Joe is talking about conservatives? Yeah, of course he is, because he doesn't actually read the news. Because you would never, if you watch CNN and MSNBC, you would never see stories like Andy Ngo being beaten up. You would never see that, because that should be headlines everywhere. And they're supposed to be these allies for the LGBTQ community, but they're only allies for the LGBTQ community if it fits their narrative. This world is insane. And we're just drifting farther and farther away from each other as Americans, and creating two separate ideologies and factions and tribes, because people just read the news differently, they see facts differently, and their bias is so strong they can't just read. If I tell you 2 + 2 = 4, they'll say, yeah, but that comes from a systematic racism. And so that you can't logically, if you can argue out and argue against literally every fact that's put in front of your face, we have a problem. Remarks from Chris Buttiera, head of threat of hunting for cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency known as the CISA, come after oil and meat industries have recently been hit hard by cyber attacks that officials have believe are coming from actually Russia, saying the ransomware actors have become more brazen. Buttiera said they've started to get all the data they can to try to extort and receive payments. Buttiera said that he expects to continue to see the ransomware attacks happen and urged companies not to pay ransoms, which the U.S. government is the official position. Ransomware attack, actually, just recently, a new one, cripples Martha's Vineyard ferry, and it's revealed that China hacked New York City's MTA in April, but failed to bid to get control of a subway train. So China's, everyone's attacking with viruses and ransomware, and U.S. officials like, just don't pay it. I'm like, okay, are you going to help? No, because you're a private company. And I totally don't want them to infiltrate, because then they'll, take control over private companies. But what do you expect? What do you expect some of these small businesses to do that, have such small margins? And they're like, no, we're going to just pay the $5 million. We'll send your tax money to other countries like Palestine. We'll give them $230 million during a pandemic year. But that $5 million ransomware, don't send that. That's way too much money. What do you think that we should do for ransomware? That's a hard bet, because yes, it's like you're going to end up spending so much money getting people to get the ransomware off your system, and it could be a long drawn out battle, and you could lose tons of money by getting in that battle. That's a very tough one. New news coming out of Russia. $186 billion sovereign wealth fund dumps all dollar assets. Russia is going to exit all dollar assets in its wealth fund to invest actually in euros, the pound, gold, and the yuan instead, and precious metals. So everyone's getting off big. China will probably get off the dollar. Russia's getting off the dollar. And as everyone in here say, don't get in cryptocurrencies. It's just make-believe money. Yeah, so is the American dollar right now. As we continue to print, Joe Biden says, hey, we're just going to spend more, because don't let a crisis go to waste, because we're still in a wartime effort during this pandemic season. Oh, man. Diversify, folks. Attorney Eric Nelson filed a motion this Wednesday requesting his client, a.k.a. Derek Chauvin, the Minneapolis police officer, to get probation in time served instead of prison time, citing the circumstance of the case, Chauvin's lack of criminal history, and arguing that the former officer will be targeted in prison. Of course he will. I don't see this ever happening. I've seen like that they want a retrial already, stuff like that. There's nothing because of unfairness. Of course it was unfair. Of course it was biased. What do you think? It's like the biggest trial in the history of America since OJ. And I think it was bigger as far as numbers. So everyone knew about it, and everyone that was on the juror even said they were freaked out about their homes being vandalized and stuff like that, because as Antifa says, hey, we're just sending a message. We're not LARPing. We're doing the real thing. As I got into a spat with a guy on Antifa, and I made fun of, they just spray painted on Nancy Mace's house. I'm just like, this is such a joke. What a bunch of idiots. They're like, hey, it's sent a message. We are in Batman times, people. The Joker is real. The Joker is alive. and it's Antifa. It's not about the money. It's about sending a message. I don't see Derek Chauvin getting out ever. I don't know about you. And same with Kyle Rittenhouse. Whether you agree with it or not, the way the media will portray both of them, no matter what, even if they're in the right. I just saw a video coming out yesterday of a white guy being held down by 3 cops while one cop is having his knee on the kid's neck, which was clearly more on his neck than actually George Floyd's was when I was watching the video. But, nothing will happen. Rand Paul continues his victory lap over his spats with Dr. Fauci on Fox News yesterday, saying there's a lot of evidence that he was a great deal of conflict of interest, Paul said, and said that if it turns out the virus came from the Wuhan lab, which it looks like it did, and there's a great deal of culpability, that he was a big supporter of the funding, but he also was a big supporter to this day of saying that we can trust the Chinese on this. We can trust the Chinese scientists. And I think that's quite naive and should be precluded him from the position he is in. Dude, Rand Paul is just a big I told you so right now. He's just doing his victory lap, and I don't blame him. The media has done their best to try to shut him down because of things he says about us giving money to other countries and stuff like that, but there's one thing he's right about 100% is Fauci, and the mainstream media is doing their best to shut that down because we don't want this information coming out that Republican senators were questioning Fauci, because then it makes it look like we were covering for them. Fauci, though, responds to these allegations and his emails that were put out that are clear, what I reported on yesterday, that he knew a lot more than he was given saying that he did, and he was following what the Chinese said. Because, if you're going to believe anything, just ask John Cena who you believe. Do you believe American citizens, American scientists, or do you believe the Chinese scientists? I believe Chinese scientists every single day. Fauci responds, Dr. Anthony Fauci made his comments in an interview with News Nation Now anchor Leland Vitteret on the Dominion report, saying, my emails were taken out of context. No, Fauci, we read your emails into its full capacity. When they're just emails, no one needs to interpret or guess or assume or take little snippets. We'll just read them ourselves. And he admitted, though, as he continued in the interview, that he can't guarantee everything that's of what's going on the Wuhan lab. Hey, I know that we gave money, and I was pretty much backing everything they were saying, and I support them, and we were in full conversation with each other. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe he did it. Maybe he had no idea. But this is what happens with leadership, Fauci. You're responsible for things that you're in control of. And so, should he be arrested? Should he be put on trial? Yeah. I don't think he should stay in the position. They're going to try to just get rid of him and then make him go away, probably. Or maybe they'll... I don't know. It's always tough with liberals. You never know who they choose to get rid of and who they choose to keep. Like Cuomo. He's still there. No trials. All the allegations just kind of went away. Hush money, if you will. And then all the, what's that senator in Virginia or something that did blackface, still there. Like, there's just a lot of what liberal, or like Jimmy Kimmel doing blackface. Jimmy Fallon did blackface, but I don't really care. I don't even care, but, you know, they eat their own anyways. But who they choose to keep and throw away is very interesting to me. So I want to see where this goes. I can see them kind of just getting rid of him, but I can also see them just continuing to push back because he's such a sex symbol to them. And he's so, like, loved. I mean, people make songs about him. I don't just imagining him getting the boot immediately is very interesting to me. I don't let me know what you think about that. New reports coming out. Mount Everest climbers could have spread a potentially more infectious and vaccine-resistant Nepal COVID variant across the world. It's found in 13 travelers on one flight from the Himalayas to Japan. There's a new variant, and it's called the Nepal COVID variant. You're allowed to say that, but don't you say Chinese variant. Don't you say that. There's always these new variants, like the Nepal, the Indian, the British, the African, the Asian. No, don't say those words. Biden yesterday, to boost vaccinations, said something that I feel like I came out of like a 90s comic or of just a white guy trying to be relevant. Just like, what year is this? Biden said, to boost vaccinations, hubs of activity information for black and brown communities, citing local beauty shops, barbershops, and stylists. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Just like... So apparently, if you're black or brown, you only get your information from beauty shops, barbershops, and stylists. He just got done watching Barbershop 1, 2, and 3. What is going on? It's like a comedian. It's how is this not a microaggression or racist for an old white guy to say, hey, we need to get more information about vaccines and some of these beauty shops, barbershops, and stylists. You know, politicians are so out of touch. They're talking about, like, our main demographic for people not getting vaccinated are these white men. How do we get them? Oh, yes, we'll put Anheuser-Busch beer on them. Come on, $5 beer. Hey, and then maybe we can get some country stars to push it down their throat, because apparently only conservatives listen to country, even though I hate country. Don't judge me. I just don't care for it. I like old country, and it's this new poppy crap. I can't do it. The CDC has a new report that just came out, and it's not about COVID-19. Saying babies born to white mothers are almost 4 times more likely to be killed by drugs than those born of black and Hispanic women. So drugs disproportionately affect white children than they do black or brown children. That story will get no traction. The most common drug listed on the death certificates were methamphetamine, which makes total sense. Drugs are a real problem and a real issue. Fentanyl, methamphetamine, crack, like heroin, but meth is huge and easy to find and is rampant, and it's a real issue and a real problem. But instead of focusing on the real issues, like, the border, like I just saw a video of that kid being left at the border by himself. I was screaming for help. There's nothing wrong to see there. It's just good people crossing, trying to find good work. What about the children that are just being left at the border, or people like dying, drowning, and those kids that were thrown across the freaking wall? And then we have like this drug obviously being crossed through the border, meth, and being probably cooked here too. But we have a real issue in this country for drugs, and we have no answer except for lock them up and put them in jail. That's our only answer for these things. But we're not going to address it because we're more worried about our racist microaggressions. Hey, I felt like what you said was racist. I know my neighbor is dying from meth from next door and probably losing his mind, and it's probably a huge reason for a lot of our homeless problem is there are a lot of drug addicts out there. But no, we're going to be more worried about that. United announces deal to buy 15 supersonic planes capable of 1,300 miles an hour and flying from New York City to London in just under 3.5 hours. Ooh, isn't that nice? That sounds real nice. That's crazy. I remember when those things were first coming out, it was like the new, I forget what they're called, but just the supersonic planes, and people were like, oh, cool, and then we got rid of it. So excited to see it come back. The San Francisco Giants have become the first Major League Baseball team to wear pride-themed uniforms. And they just cured homophobia. I mean, what is the pandering? The pandering of some of these corporations, sports teams, and stuff like that, it's just disgusting to me. Just play sports. I mean, does it have to be a social message? Do you have to have it in? Are people running around beating up gay people besides Antifa? No. Maybe have the message to them. Joe Moglia, ex-TD Ameritrade CEO, warns meme stock traders that leverage could rip your arms off. Yes, it could. But some of these old guys, they're just so mad about meme stocks because you know when you find out you're not cool anymore, and you're like, man, no one thinks I'm cool, and I don't know what's cool anymore, and I don't know what's going on, and I thought I had a finger on the system and what's going on in the world, but it turns out I don't. And they're just mad about meme stocks, so they're all trying to infiltrate these Reddit forums and stuff like that, and they're like, is it AMC, is it Nokia, what is it, man? And today in history, this is real history, in 1989, not too long ago, crackdown on Tiananmen Square begins with protests for democratic reforms entering their 7th week. The Chinese government authorizes its soldiers and tanks to reclaim Beijing's Tiananmen Square at all costs. By nightfall on June 4th, the start of today, in 1989, Chinese troops had forcibly cleared the square, killing hundreds and arresting thousands of demonstrators and suspected dissidents. And that's how you shut people up. Twitter and Facebook said, oh, that's a great idea. That's honestly one of the saddest things in the whole world is the world just watched it happen. But they're too big of a power for us to be like, hey, we're going to infiltrate and destroy your government so your people can be free. And I think we just got tired of dealing with foreign conflicts as we look at easier targets like the Middle East as opposed to China. But very sad. What the CCP, what the Chinese government, the Communist Party does to its people is very, very sad. And it's only good for those in power and rich. Those people, if you follow along like John Cena and you just mouth the words that they want you to mouth to keep the message going, then they are okay with you. But if you're a dissident, if you try to have, if you want democracy, you're a real problem. I worry about the Chinese people. Thank you guys so much for watching the Derek O'Shea Show. If you don't mind sharing this with all your friends and family, it's the only way we will grow as a community. It helps me out. I can always tell when you guys go on a limb and share because, I see upticks and I see people following more. And I know it's not because they just found me, probably, and that might happen. But I know it's mainly because you guys are sharing. So I appreciate you guys so much for doing that. Please continue to do that. It means a lot to me. Let's grow this thing. Let's blow this thing out of the water, man. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Yeah, and I appreciate you so much. I know it's just Thursday, but I just want you to know I appreciate you so much. Hey, if you want to join the week recap show, the bonus show where I just dive into culture, if you want me to answer any questions, you can DM me on any social media platform, and I'll include you on the show. Or you can email me at thederekoshea@gmail.com. I'd be totally happy to have you a part of the show. Yeah, we'll answer your questions. We'll hang out. We'll have a good time. As always, I'll see you on the next episode of the Derek O'Shea Show.